Hi guys, welcome to Full Time Devils. I'm Adam McCullough. We're here for the end of season debate. I'm joined by Jay Howson and Jamie Jackson again. And we're here to discuss how Manchester United have got on this season, Louis van Gaal's philosophy, and what to expect or what to hope for going forward as Manchester United fans. So part one is called the evolution of the philosophy. I never made that up. There's two words I can't spell. So anyway, let's carry on. Part one, season's over. Do we know what Louis van Gaal's philosophy is, guys?
What, everyone just look at me? Come on, explain it. Right, well, I think I said this on an earlier summit or other that we've done, because we've done a couple, haven't we? If Van Gaal says to the players, it's going to take me months for you to understand it, and when he did his first press conference and went, it's too complex, I can't bother to explain it to you, then four guys sat upstairs in a pub in town, I've got no chance of explaining what it is on the back of a guess. But I think from what you see on the pitch, it's obviously a heavily possession-based game. I think we're lacking a little bit of quality in the final third, but I think apart from that, I think it's fairly obvious to see how he intends to play football, and I think we probably got 80 to 90% of the way there this year. With it, I think we're not far off what his end product is going to be. I don't think we're quite there with it yet, though.
I think with philosophy, when we heard that word so many times, it became even more meaningless than it is now. And everyone, used to ask him what it meant, and like he said, he didn't want to explain them when he did. But I remember him saying something about, to me, it seemed more like about the attitude the players have, buying into that attitude, because he spoke about like the staff and even the tea lady having it. So I don't think it's just the football on the pitch. I think it's everyone sort of having the right approach to games and the right sort of approach to training and the way they do things.
He might have got the word wrong. It might have been an ethos rather than a philosophy.
Yeah. I think that makes more sense. I think everyone's sort of got caught up in this whole, what does this philosophy mean? What does it mean? But I think he thinks of it as more like you say, an ethos or an attitude that you have towards sort of doing things the right way.
Jamie, what are your opinions on Louis van Gaal and his philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember. Ferguson never used that word, did he? I was thinking about this the other day.
It's hard to say in a Scottish accent on it.
Yeah. So I'm not. Is it just another word for a plan or an approach? I don't know. He would say that it's also about the player as a human being beyond being a footballer. Kind of off the pitch, etc., etc. I mean, he came out with the retrain the brains thing. I think last summer actually on the tour. To get the players sort of playing and thinking differently. So that's part of his philosophy. But it's kind of like a big word or a sort of a wordy sounding word for maybe quite a simple thing, which is just an approach, maybe like you say, an ethos.
I think his philosophy or tactics or style of play or whatever way you want to put it, I think it's never been a formation. We've seen it chop and change so many times. I think it's been, as you guys say, a mentality, an approach to it. And you say about training the brains, I think that was because he expects so much of his players. Like, if they're playing centre half, they're probably expected, one of them is expected to drop into midfield at times and move to the left or move to the right more often than they used to under other managers. So it's taken time for them to get all of those instructions through into their brains. But I think the main thing that I've loved that he's brought back to Manchester United is an arrogance, a team unity, and that will never die attitude. I know we haven't done it many times this season, but you look at draws against West Brom, the winner at Palace. There's been similar moments throughout the season where you think United have got that grit and determination.
But that for me has been the massive difference between him and Moyes. You won or didn't lose a lot of games that you probably would have done last season under Moyes, and I think that's the Van Gaal factor. Whatever what you're describing about just getting over the line somehow, which Ferguson obviously did, but winning games properly and playing well. But I think maybe the idea next season will be to win a lot more games. Obviously, I just think David Moyes, players just didn't believe. If David Moyes had started speaking about philosophy, I'm not too sure how that would have gone down. But Van Gaal, with his back record and success, etc., they'll buy it off him.
Moyes came in and tried to adapt himself to Manchester United, whereas Louis van Gaal's come in and gone, this is how we're playing football. And I think the players have responded to that confidence/arrogance, and there's a fine line between the two. I think the players have responded to that and his past CV and gone, let's give this guy a chance. I mean, even the fans have as well, because he's done some things this season that have made us all scratch our heads, and there's been tiny moments of dissent, but it's not been the majority decision like it has been under Moyes. Under Moyes, basically 70-80% of the crowd was done by end of January, February last year, whereas that's never been the case. The massive high 90s percentage of the crowd has been completely behind Van Gaal, because we know and can sort of see that it's kind of there but just not clicking, whereas under Moyes it was doing it one week and then the week after, and I think there's always been like a building to something.
Do you
under
think
Van Gaal.
something I've been impressed by him is he learns from his mistakes. He's not scared to change. Do you agree with that?
No, I think he does to a certain extent, and I think, touching on the sort of confidence and arrogance thing, I think going into the big games under Moyes, it was just completely deflating. It was over before it started. With Van Gaal, all the sort of the big games we've had, the Chelseas, the Cities, the Man Cities, the Arsenals, we've done quite well in those games. It's against some of the lesser teams where we've perhaps, especially away from home, struggled. So I think he does learn to a certain extent, but I think he'll be the first to admit he's still got a little bit to learn.
That speech at the end of season awards, I know I was sat at home ready to fight someone or ready to run around Old Trafford singing we're going to win the league. Like, you just think the players, they want to play for that man, and you see it in every single player. Like, even players that get dropped under Herrera earlier in the season, he still trained hard, he still worked hard whenever he was included in the team. He played for the shirt, and that's something we've seen a lot of this season as well. No Hernandez on Instagram or whoever in the press talking rubbish, Rio with his leaks and whatnot. And that's something I've really enjoyed. But do you think Louis' evolution towards, hard to use the word philosophy again, but do you think his evolution as a Manchester United manager is complete with his tactics and his philosophy, or is there more to see and there's more to implement into the team?
I think there's probably more to come into the way the team plays, but not in terms of the way he's inputting it. I think that we're going to see an upgrade of a couple of players. Unfortunately, not the goalkeeper, I don't think, but I think we're going to see an upgrade of a couple of the players on the pitch, and I think that's going to result in better performances and better results on the back of it. I don't think that's going to be because he's evolved his tactics or evolved his philosophy or ethos. I think that's just because we're going to be replacing and improving on the players that we've got on the pitch, and that's going to bring us a bit more. I think the building blocks are there. Everyone can see the direction we're going, which is it's what he did with Barcelona. He basically invented the tiki-taka that Pep Guardiola did take to the next level, but Van Gaal put that there. He also put it there with Bayern Munich, and you've seen the effect that it's had on them. And I think you can see with the possession that we've had with, let's face it, some mediocre players, the possession stats that we had at Champions Chelsea away from home, when they're within touching distance of winning the league, we dominated that game. And if you give me some better players in the final third, some more clinical players in the final third, we're going to Stamford Bridge and we're putting it on Chelsea next season.
Jay, do you think a lot of Manchester United fans, like, I've got a gentleman called Paul who I speak to a lot from our supporters club, and he can't stand Louis van Gaal and the way he plays football with Manchester United. He's been going to Old Trafford since the 70s, and he's used to attacking style of play. Do you think we've got to, if we want success, got to get used to this kind of football?
I suppose we have a little bit, because like Steve was touching on there, I don't think he's going to suddenly change his approach completely. And he does seem to like keeping hold of the ball. He does seem to like his possession play. And I get what you're saying about the fact that with better quality players, we'll have more penetration. But even so, I think that for me, the sort of disappointing thing is you talk about evolving. Three or 4 weeks ago, we looked like we were riding high on a sort of crest of a few results, and we were going to sort of storm into second place, if you will. Yeah, maybe some of us were even questioning that. And then the last sort of 3 or 4 weeks have knocked the wind out of ourselves a little bit, and we seem to have gone backwards in a sense of over-relying on some players and keeping hold of the ball when we should be doing more with it. So I do think there is room for him to sort of evolve a little bit more, if you will. But I don't think he's going to have a big, massive change. And like you say, it is as he likes to say himself, it is a process, and this is something we've just got to be a little bit more patient with, even going into next season.
Something which frustrated me has been against the smaller teams, we seem to play within ourselves, and that's where we've lost the likes of Raphael. He's scared to play him because he's so adventurous, and that kind of thing that we've lost. What do you make of?
You see, he said, I think he said on Friday that, and he said in the past that he likes to play attacking football. I'm not so sure he does. I think he likes to win games, and for me, he's quite similar to Mourinho in that it's caution first. That's his default setting. Keep the ball, kind of smother the opposition. He talks about pass, get the opposition players out of position. They're tired, and then attack. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I just don't think he's like Ferguson. I don't think he is attack first. I think he's more don't lose first, and we'll win 1 or 2-0. So that's why it's going to be very interesting this summer who he signs. And I think I would say, it's probably the same for any manager, any top club or any club really, but the first 6-10 league games are going to be a bit of a trial for him, because he's had a whole year plus this summer to get himself bedded in, his philosophy, his ideas, and then it's going to be really fascinating to see who he comes out of the summer with, new signings, and what he does with them. And I think he'll be successful. Don't get me wrong. I don't think he's going to, United will fold in those opening games, but it is a little bit of a test because you're going to then see. I thought that's going to set the standard of where United are going to, how able they're going to be able to contend next season.
And there's no excuse either.
Well, that's
coming in through the back end of this summer, there is going to be no excuse because I'm certain the club's going to pull out the checkbook and wave it around like it's going out of fashion. Van Gaal's been here this season, and he's been pretty ruthless in getting rid of players. I was having a look at our starting lineups for the beginning of the season, and centre mid we had Cleverley and Fletcher, both gone.
The days.
And up front against Swansea was Chicharito, gone. Obviously coming back from his loan, but I think he's been very quick to get rid of players that either don't match up to the quality that he's looking for or don't fit this philosophy. And I would expect, sort of alluded to a little bit the other day when I said I think we might be surprised to see Rooney go. I don't think that Rooney's going to go, but what I was saying is I think there may be a shock in summer that someone that we're just not seeing just gets floated out the door because they don't fit in with his system.
Did you hear Carrick when he was a studio guest for the Arsenal game saying that he's far more precise than Ferguson ever was? He wants players positioned to the sort of nth degree, precise, feet away from each other. And he just said Ferguson was never like that. That for me reminds me of Mourinho. I mean, Mourinho learned under him, didn't he, a little bit at Barcelona. And I think Evans said that to us last summer, all about this position. You've got to, he'll tell you off if you're not in exactly the same amount. And that's a lot of why it's taken long for him to sort of learn this, because it's almost like a sort of chess game or something.
The creativity's not been quite there in the final third.
I think that's why Herrera's sort of, Herrera didn't get in the side. Exactly. We were all scratching our heads. Why is Herrera not playing more? But I think he struggled a little bit with that. You've got to stay in a certain position, because Herrera's one of those players that likes to get into where there's a space, likes to carry the ball forward. And I think Van Gaal wanted him to be a little bit more disciplined.
Why he loves Fellaini, because he always says Fellaini does exactly what I asked him to do.
That explains it.
Right, we'll talk about the players a little bit more in part 2. Part 1, we've been speaking about LVG's philosophy and how it's gone this season, and we're still none the wiser as to what it is. Anyway, guys, check out part 2 and part 3. The links are below in the description. We'll be back shortly.
It's not been good enough. Can you legitimately say, I saw a ball off Fellaini where he played it along the floor, just in behind the defender, with the right weight on it and everything? It's never happened.